Hello everybody and welcome to Mr. Stansfield's education videos. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to create a text portrait that looks like this. This is more or less the final product. So let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to do here is go File, New. And we're going to create a new file. We're going to go ahead and select Document Type, International Paper, and then choose Size A4. Click OK. The next thing we're going to do is grab the text tool, the horizontal type tool, clicking right here, and we're going to go ahead and set the point to 72. Make sure our color picker here, the text color, is set to black, and then click OK. I'm going to go ahead and choose 3 words that I'm going to use for this text portrait. You can choose any 3 words that you think helps kind of describe you. I'm going to go ahead and say cool, click this little check mark right here. Fresh, click this little check mark right here. Radical, click this little check mark right there. So I have my 3 boxes here, text boxes. If I click on the layers palette, you can see radical, fresh, and cool are right here. If I click on the cool layer in my layers palette, I can choose a different font. If I wanted to choose something a little bit bigger like that, let's click on the fresh layer and then go and change it. So you're going to choose 3 different fonts. And radical, I'm randomly choosing fonts. You're going to hopefully spend a little bit of time and find a font that you think looks good. What happened to my font? My radical went away. I don't know what happened to it. There we go. All right, so there we go. We got cool, fresh, and radical. And we are going to use these to create brushes. And what we're going to do here is use the rectangular marquee tool. Okay, that's up here. Click and drag. We want to be close to the text. We want to be pretty close to the text, but have the text fully in the box. Then we're going to go into Edit and then Define Brush Preset. And we're going to call this Cool. I'm calling it Cool 3 because I already did this a couple times already. Fresh, Edit, Define Brush Preset, Fresh, and Radical. Radical. All right, and then we're going to click OK. I can close this window. I don't need it anymore. The shortcut key to close a file in Photoshop without quitting Photoshop is Command W, and I don't need to save it because I already defined my brushes. All right, the next step is to actually go to the original file that you want to open here in Bridge, double click on it, and here we go. Step 1 is going to be to copy the background layer, and we go to our layers palette here, and we just simply click and drag that background down to this little square next to the trash can. We're going to be using this later as well. That's the new layer, and so we click and drag the background onto the new layer, and it'll make a copy of the background. We're going to convert this to black and white, or in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and desaturate. Shift-Command-U is the shortcut key to desaturate. There it is. Background copy is now desaturated. And the next thing I'm going to do is actually make an adjustment by going down here to this little wheel and choosing Posterize or Posterize. And the levels here, I want to change that to either 3 or 4. In this case, I'm going to choose 4 for this portrait. You may find that 3 works better for you. And after we do that, we're going to go and click on the background copy again. So select the background copy. And then we're going to go down here to this little half circle and choose Levels. And we're going to go ahead and click and drag this middle section of the levels adjustment forward and backward until the face and hair are separated from the background and the facial features are still there. So this is obviously too bright, that's obviously too dark, but somewhere in here the background is kind of separated from the hair, and then the details in the face are still there. So something like that looks pretty good to me. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Okay. All right. The next step here to complete this sort of prep work for this is going to be selecting the top layer, in this case the Posterize 1 layer. And then on the keyboard I'm going to hold down Shift, Command, and Option at the same time. And then I'm going to press the letter E as in elephant. And that's going to create this layer 1. And layer 1 now is basically everything that we've done beforehand. It's sort of pasted into a new layer. That's layer 1. The next step is to create some new layers. So after we create layer 1, we're going to go ahead down to this little new layer thing, click right there. We're going to go Edit, Fill, or Shift F5 is the shortcut key, and we're going to go ahead and choose Contents White and click OK. Fill layer 2 with white. And then we're going to go ahead to the new layer palette again. And this time layer 3, we're going to leave invisible. That's what that checker box indicates, that layer is empty. We're going to now go ahead and add a layer mask into layer 3. And we're going to create a layer mask out of layer 1. So watch what I'm doing here. I'm going to uncheck the eyeballs on layer 2 and layer 3. I'm going to select layer 1. I'm going to go to select all. You can see the shortcut key is Command A, and then edit copy, the shortcut key is Command C. So I could have saved a couple of seconds there and gone Command A and then Command C. What I've just done is copied everything in layer 1. I'm going to go to layer 3 now. I'm going to turn these eyeballs on again. I'm going to go to layer 3. I'm going to create a layer mask by going down here to this little circle within the rectangle. Clicking on that, I have a layer mask now on layer 3. Now, this is one thing that trips a lot of people up, so just be careful. You're going to hold the Option key, and click on the layer mask. So Option, click on the layer mask, and I've selected that layer mask. I'm going to go to Edit, Paste, and then that will paste in the image into the layer 3 layer mask. I don't want it to paste into the layer, I want it to paste in the layer mask. Finally here, I'm going to invert this, and I go Image, Adjustments, Invert. You can see the shortcut key is simply Command I. So if you hit Command I, this should work. You can see I still have my marching ants around the outside, so I'm going to go to Select, Deselect. Command D is the shortcut key to do that. All right, I'm ready to start with the text, and I'm going to do that by clicking into layer 3 right here. Make sure that the little the layer itself is highlighted here on all 4 corners. So what I'm going to do now is use the brush tool to add text to layer 3. We've created a layer mask, and that's going to actually kind of determine the way that the image shows up. But what we're going to use is the brush tool in layer 3, making sure that we select layer 3 right here. Oops, clicked that too many times. And if we use the brush tool, right, B is the shortcut key to select the brush tool, and we go up here to our brushes, you can see I've got Cool, Fresh, and Radical. I'm going to start with Radical. And what I'm going to do is first hit D, as in dog, on the keyboard, just to make sure that my foreground and background are actually defaulted to black and white. And then just in case somebody else was using the brush tool differently, double check that the mode is set to normal and the opacity is set to 100 and the flow is set to 100. And then what we're going to do is actually just start clicking around, and we're going to vary the size of the brush. So I've got a couple there at that size. If I go up here, I can change the size a little bigger, kind of randomly, go a little smaller. Now this is going to take a while if I do it this way. So this is fine, but I'm going to show you a little bit of a different way after I show you this way. I'm going to show you maybe a little bit of a better way to do this. So adding in the fresh, make the size a little bit bigger. The shortcut key to change the size of the palette is actually the left and right bracket. So check this out. If I hold the left bracket, I can make that fresh a little smaller. And if I use the right bracket, I can make it a little bigger. And let's do our last word right here, cool. Don't be afraid to go off the edges of the frame to make this a little bigger. And you can see the image is actually starting to kind of come in a little bit smaller. What happens if I just click and drag is actually kind of not what we're looking for here. So I'm going to undo that. The shortcut key to undo something is Command Z. So you can see here, all I need to do is just spend some time with this, and I will eventually kind of fill this all in where I want it to be. So fill in all that white space like that. And that's fine. This is fine. It's a little bit time consuming to actually get it to look the way that we want it to look. So what I'm going to do is actually start over and show you a little bit of a better way to do this. It's a little bit more complicated, but I think it will look a little bit better. So I'm going to start by resetting my layer 3. So the trick with this is actually using the brush properties, the brush tool. So if you can't find that, it's up here, Window, and then Brush, or F5, I guess is the shortcut key. And what we want to do is choose our first brush, and then we're going to turn on Shape Dynamics, Scattering, and Transfer. And on Shape Dynamics, we're going to turn the size jitter up to 100%. And we are going to keep the angle jitter down and the roundness jitter down as well. In the scattering here, we're going to turn that up to 1000%. And then on the transfer, we're going to put that opacity jitter up to 1000. And then flow, same thing. Like actually the default is right around 75%. So scattering, 1000. I think we can keep that on unchecked right there. And then now, if I just click and drag, it automatically adds all those freshes in there. Okay. If I make my brush a little bigger, I can just brush really quickly and then brush a little smaller, get a bunch of small freshes in there too. The next step would be to just go to the next word here. So I got my radical brush. I'm going to have to go back to the brush palette and do the same thing. Shape Dynamics, Scattering, Transfer, Size Jitter 1000, Scatter 1000, or I'm sorry, 100, 1000, and then 100 opacity jitter. Radical, brush that in one. I'm just doing one little quick thing. Same thing here, bringing in a little bit bigger. So I'm really just like brushing twice once I actually have the brush set. And then I've got the cool, go to my brush palette here, Shape Dynamics, Scattering, Transfer, Shape Dynamics, Size Jitter, 1000, etc., etc. Okay, and then bring in the cool, a little bigger, bring in the cool. Okay, and then if I wanted to, I could turn those things off. If I wanted to have radical kind of show up a little bit more, I could like stamp that in somewhere if I wanted to do that. But there it is. And you can see that the image itself is kind of filled in a little bit more this way. I can actually see the posterized shape of Edmund's face, Edmund who let us use this photo of him. And the text kind of spreads out a little bit more. If you wanted to vary a couple of things, I can show you really quickly here. If you wanted to angle jitter, you can see down here that actually that would start to give us the option of like flipping the word around. So you can kind of see there that you can change the angle. It'll be upside down if you wanted to do that. So let's just back up here and I'll show you a little bit more of what that might look like. So there, the cool gets a little bit varied with the angle jitter. So you could add that in if you wanted to. The thing is you do have to click and drag through there. That's it. That's how you're going to create your text portrait. I'm just going to actually go ahead and finish this up really quick and see what it looks like with the angle jitter on all of the words. Okay, that's fresh and radical. Let's bring radical in. So brush, shape, scatter, transfer. Okay, so yeah, I think I like the horizontal type. It reads a little bit better. This is a little bit maybe too chaotic. But whenever you're done, you just save it as a Photoshop file. So File, Save As, and then you'll save it. And just make sure that the format here is set to Photoshop. Last name, underscore, first name, underscore, period, underscore, assignment. .psd. Make sure that .psd is in there, but you have to do it by setting the Photoshop format down here. And then save that and click OK. That's it.